Every Thursday night for 6 months, I delivered a large pepperoni pizza to the same address. It was a fading blue house at the far end of Maple Street, the kind of place with paint curling off the shutters and a porch light that flickered like it couldn't decide whether to die or hang on a little longer. The old man who answered the door never changed. Same gray cardigan, same pressed khakis, same faraway look in his eyes like he was always searching for something just out of reach. The routine was clockwork. He'd hand me the exact amount for the pizza, $18.50, and then, without fail, count out a $47 tip in crisp bills, so fresh they looked ironed. Not $40, not $50, always 47. Then, right before closing the door, he'd meet my eyes with a strange, heavy look that made the air feel charged. And he'd say the same 5 words every single time. Tell your mother I'm sorry. For months, those words followed me home like ghosts. My mom, Judy, worked 12-hour shifts at Mercy General, then came home and cleaned like she was trying to scrub something off her soul. She never dated, never talked about my dad except to say he died before I was born. Whenever I asked for more, she'd change the subject or pretend not to hear me. So I never told her about the old man on Maple Street. I told myself it was because she was tired, because she didn't need more weirdness in her life, but deep down, I think I was afraid of what her face might show if I did. Then came last Thursday. He opened the door like usual, but this time, his hands were shaking worse than I'd ever seen. He pulled a worn photograph from his cardigan pocket and held it out to me. The picture was old and creased. The colors faded, but I knew that smile instantly. It was my mom, younger, sitting at a piano next to a man with kind eyes and a crooked grin. Your mother named you after me, son, he said softly. The pizza box slipped from my hands and hit the porch, sauce and cheese spilling everywhere. I didn't even move to pick it up. Neither of us did. We just stood there, him trembling, me frozen, staring at each other like time had stopped. I finally found my voice. Who are you? He smiled, sad and small. Name's Henry Voss, he said. But a long time ago your mother used to call me Hank. And that's how I found out my father, the man I'd spent my whole life believing was dead, was alive, living 5 blocks away, tipping me $47 every Thursday for half a year. Mom set down the takeout container carefully, like it might explode. He probably has me confused with someone else, she said. You know how it is with older people sometimes. Her voice was steady, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm heading to bed early shift tomorrow. She left the dinner half finished. That never happened. Mom didn't waste anything, not food, not money, not words about things she didn't want to talk about. The Thursdays kept coming. Same house, same order, same quiet man, Mr. Voss would call in, I'd deliver. He'd hand me the exact total plus $47, and before the door closed, he'd say, tell your mother I'm sorry. After the 4th week, I couldn't take it anymore. Mom, that Mr. Voss guy keeps saying the same thing. Are you sure you don't know him? She was folding laundry in the living room, each shirt squared to perfect hospital corners. Years of nursing had trained her hands to work with precision, even when her heart didn't want to. Colton, she said, not looking up, some things are better left in the past. Whatever that man thinks he needs to apologize for, it has nothing to do with our life now. But Mom, $47 every week? Maybe he thinks he owes you something. She pressed the iron down too hard, the hiss of steam sharp in the air. What he owes or doesn't owe is irrelevant. We don't need anything from anyone. We've done fine on our own for 19 years, haven't we? Yeah, but if you know him, maybe I should say something back. Thank him for the tips, at least. You say nothing except have a good evening. You deliver his pizza, you take his money, and you come home. That's it, Colton. Promise me. The intensity in her voice made something in my chest tighten. Mom was tough, had to be, but she wasn't harsh. Not like this. I promise, I said quietly. Her face softened. She reached out and squeezed my shoulder. You're a good kid. Best thing that ever happened to me. Now go finish your homework. That biology exam isn't going to pass itself. 3 months passed. Every Thursday I stood on that same porch, collecting the same apology, the same strange tip, while the same door closed between us. Yet somehow I felt part of something bigger, a story that started long before I was born and hadn't reached its ending. Last Thursday started like all the others. At 7:30 sharp, the phone rang at Tony's, and I knew before picking up who it was. 1 large pepperoni, extra cheese, Mr. Voss said. His voice was thinner this time. like the sound was coming from far away instead of across town. Then he added something new. Make sure it's you who delivers it, Colton. Always is, Mr. Voss. See you at 8:15. When I pulled up to his house, something felt wrong. The porch light was off. Through the window, I could see him sitting in his armchair, not moving. Usually, he'd already be at the door by now. I knocked 3 times. No answer. The fourth knock finally brought shuffling footsteps. When the door opened, my breath caught. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in a week. His cardigan hung loose on his frame, his skin pale and grayish, dark circles bruised beneath his eyes. Mr. Voss, are you okay? Should I call someone? Maybe a doctor? He waved me off weakly. Just tired, son. When you get to my age, tired becomes a permanent state. He handed me the exact amount plus $47, like always. But this time, he didn't start to close the door. He just stared at me. You have her eyes, he said softly, almost to himself. Your mother's eyes. Same warm brown, same little gold flecks when the light hits them right. I used to tell her they looked like autumn leaves with bits of sunlight trapped inside. My chest tightened. This was the first time he'd ever said anything personal. You really knew my mom, didn't you? Not just in passing, you actually knew her. He nodded slowly, leaning against the doorframe, better than anyone. Once upon a time, we were going to conquer the world together, she and I. Young people always think they have forever. What happened between you two? He gave a short, bitter laugh. Life happened, or maybe death, depending on how you look at it. Then he studied me again, his eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. Tell me, Colton, your last name's Reeves, like your mother's. Did she ever marry? No, sir. It's always been just us. She told me my father died before I was born, car accident. Something flickered across his face, a mix of pain, disbelief, and something like fragile hope. Died, he repeated softly. The word hung there between us, heavy as truth. Yes, I suppose in a way he did. The person he was certainly died that night. She set the container down carefully, like it might explode. Probably has me confused with someone else. You know how it is with older folks sometimes. Her voice was steady, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm heading to bed. Early shift tomorrow. She left half her food untouched. That never happened. Mom didn't waste anything, not food, not money, and definitely not words about things she didn't want to discuss. Over the next few weeks, our Thursday routine kept going like nothing had changed. Mr. Voss would call. I'd deliver. He'd hand me the pizza, exact change, and that same crisp $47 tip. Then the line that hung in the air long after he shut the door, tell your mother I'm sorry. By the fourth week, I couldn't keep quiet. Mom, that Mr. Voss guy keeps saying the same thing. Are you sure you don't know him? She was in the laundry room, folding my work shirts with the precision of someone who'd worked in hospitals too long. Colton, some things are better left in the past. Whatever that man thinks he needs to apologize for, it has nothing to do with us. But Mom, $47 every week is a lot of money. Maybe he thinks he owes you something? The iron hissed against the fabric. She pressed down harder than necessary. What he owes or doesn't owe doesn't matter. We don't need anything from anyone. We've done fine on our own for 19 years, haven't we? Yeah, but if you know him, maybe I should say something back. Thank him at least. You say nothing except have a good evening. You deliver his pizza, take his money, and come home. That's it. Promise me. The sudden edge in her voice made me flinch. Mom was tough. Sure, raising me alone would do that, but she rarely snapped. I promise. She softened a little then, her hand resting on my shoulder. You're a good kid, Colton. Best thing that ever happened to me. Now go finish your homework. That biology exam won't pass itself. 3 months passed. Every Thursday night, I stood on that same porch, collecting money and apologies. Mr. Voss never changed his order, never made small talk, never invited me in. Just the pizza, the money, the message, and the door closing between us. Yet somehow, I couldn't shake the feeling I was part of something much bigger, a story that started long before I was born. Then came last Thursday. At 7:30 sharp, Tony yelled from the kitchen, Colton, your regular's on line 2. But Mr. Voss's voice sounded different this time, thinner, like it was traveling through a tunnel. 1 large pepperoni, extra cheese, and make sure it's you who delivers it, Colton. It always is, Mr. Voss. See you soon. When I pulled up to his house, something felt wrong right away. The porch light was off. Through the front window, I could see him sitting in his armchair, not moving toward the door. I knocked. Once, twice, three times. Finally, shuffling footsteps. When he opened the door, I almost didn't recognize him. He'd lost weight a lot. His cardigan hung loose, his skin looked pale, and his hands trembled worse than ever. Mr. Voss, are you okay? Should I call someone? He waved it off, but even that looked like an effort. Just tired, son. When you get to be my age, tired's just how it is. He handed me the usual bills, exact change plus $47. Then he studied me for a long moment. You have her eyes, he said softly. Your mother's eyes. Same brown with those little gold flecks when the light hits. I used to tell her they looked like autumn leaves with sunlight caught inside. My stomach flipped. It was the first time he'd said anything beyond that same five-word apology. You really knew my mom, didn't you? He nodded, leaning against the doorframe for balance. Better than anyone. Once upon a time, we were going to conquer the world together. Young people always think forever's guaranteed. What happened between you two? He gave a hollow laugh, more a cough than a laugh. Life happened, or death, depending on how you look at it. He studied me again, eyes sharp now. Tell me, Colton, your last name's Reeves, right? Same as your mother's? Yes, sir. It's just been me and her. She told me my father died before I was born. Car accident. Something changed in his expression, a mix of pain, regret, and something that looked dangerously close to hope. Died, he repeated quietly. Yes, I suppose, in a way he did. The man he died that night. He was playing the old upright piano they kept in the corner, and I was sitting nearby, buried in my nursing books. He started playing Clair de Lune, and I forgot all about anatomy and physiology. We fell in love fast, the way young people do when they think nothing bad can ever touch them. Mom, I whispered, are you saying Mr. Voss is actually Henry, my father? She held up a hand, needing to finish the story her own way. 3 weeks before our wedding, she said quietly, he was driving back from a rehearsal. It was raining, one of those spring storms that turns the roads into black ice. A semi jackknifed across the highway. Henry tried to stop, but he couldn't. The doctors said it was a miracle he survived it all. Her voice stayed steady, but her hands twisted the fabric of her scrubs. He was in a coma for 2 months. When he woke up, the brain injury had taken huge parts of his memory. He didn't remember me, didn't remember our life together, didn't remember that I was 6 weeks pregnant with you. My world tilted. Everything I thought I knew about my father, my mother, myself started to crack apart. So you lied to me, I said, my voice barely holding together. His parents made the decision, she said. She wasn't defending herself, just stating facts that had haunted her for decades. They came from money, old New England kind of money. They said forcing him to remember could cause more damage. The doctors agreed. She looked away, like she could still see that hospital room. They offered me money, enough to raise you, go back to school, start over. They said it would be kinder to let him go, to let him live whatever life he could, without the pressure of a family he couldn't remember. And you just accepted that, I asked, the hurt spilling through my words. You just walked away? Her eyes snapped back to mine, fierce, protective heartbreak hiding behind them. I was 19, Colton, pregnant, alone, and the love of my life looked right through me like I was a stranger. His mother stood there and told me I was being selfish. If I stayed that, I'd be trapping him in a life he didn't choose. Her voice broke then, just a little. So, yes, I took the money. I moved across town, changed my name back to Reeves, and I raised you the best I could. But the tips, I said, $47 every time. She gave a sad smile, soft and knowing. April 7th, she whispered. Our wedding date, the one that never happened. If he's remembering that, maybe parts of him are coming back. I pulled out the brass key. He said there's proof in his study. Documents, photographs. He wants me to show you. Mom stood suddenly, smoothing her scrubs with trembling hands. Then we're going, right now. It's not Thursday yet. Colton, she said, her voice trembling, if that man is your father, if Henry's remembering us after all this time, I'm not waiting another day. Get your keys. The drive to Maple Street felt endless. Every red light was an eternity. Every turn, a hesitation. Mom sat beside me, silent, one hand gripping my arm like an anchor. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just driving to deliver a pizza. I was driving to meet the ghost who'd haunted both of us. When we pulled into the cracked driveway, the house was completely dark. No porch light, no glow from the living room window. Mom squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. I knocked 3 times. Mr. Voss, it's Colton. I brought someone with me. A weak voice drifted through the door. Doors open. I'm in the living room. We stepped inside. The familiar scent of coffee and old books still lingered. The lamp by the armchair cast a soft golden light. Mr. Voss sat there, wrapped in a blanket that seemed too big for his frail body. But when he saw my mother, when he really saw her, his whole face changed. Light bloomed in his eyes, and his voice trembled like a hymn. Judy, he breathed. My Judy. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. The sound she made was part gasp, part sob, something raw and human and 30 years overdue. Henry, she whispered. You remember me? You actually remember? He nodded, tears cutting down his cheeks. It started coming back about a year ago, he said softly. Little flashes the way you hummed Beethoven while you studied. How you took your coffee with just a splash of cream. The sound of your laugh when I played ragtime. He looked past me for a moment, like remembering took everything he had left. Then more and more came back faster and clearer. 6 months ago, I saw Colton for the first time. 6 months ago, I repeated quietly. That's when you started ordering pizza. He smiled faintly. I'd been searching for you both for weeks. Found your name in the phone book. Judith Reeves, Oak Lane. But I was a coward. How do you knock on someone's door and say, hello, I'm the man who forgot you for 30 years? Mom crossed the room and knelt beside him, taking his hands gently in hers. Henry, she whispered, why didn't you come sooner? Why didn't you call? He looked at her, not the way you look at someone standing in front of you, but the way you look at someone you thought you'd lost forever. Because, Judy, he said quietly, I'm not the man you fell in love with anymore. That Henry, the young man full of music and laughter, died on that rain-slick highway all those years ago. The man sitting before us was what was left after the storm, someone who had spent 3 decades clawing his way back through the fog of forgetting. The pianist, with dreams of concert halls, had become an old man who spent most of his life not knowing he had a family waiting for him. He looked at me, his eyes a fragile mix of pride and sorrow. By the time I remembered everything, he said softly, you were already grown, Colton, already delivering pizzas to pay your way through school. Maybe it was fate, or maybe punishment that my own son would be the one bringing dinner to my door every Thursday night without knowing who I was. He smiled faintly, tears sliding down the deep lines of his face. Every Thursday I got to see you, got to give you something, even if it was just a tip. Got to watch you become the man I should have helped raise. You're everything good, Colton. Everything your mother and I might have been if life hadn't crashed into that semi-truck. Mom's voice broke the silence. You told Colton there was proof in your study. Henry's eyes brightened with something almost boyish. Second door on the left, he said. Everything's there. But first, there's something I need to give Colton myself. He reached to the side of his chair and pulled up an old violin case, its leather cracked and darkened with age. His hand shook as he undid the clasps. Inside lay a violin that caught the lamplight like amber and gold. This was mine, he whispered, touching the strings as if greeting an old friend. Before the accident, I played piano mostly, but violin was my first love. Afterward, I couldn't play at all. Then about 2 years ago, my hands started remembering what my mind had forgotten. I want you to have it, Colton. It was always meant to be yours. I took it carefully, feeling the smooth wood vibrate faintly against my palms. I don't know how to play, I said. He smiled. Doesn't matter. It's yours, whether you learn or not. But there's something else, something important. He looked between Mom and me, his voice trembling but clear. Your middle name, Colton. Tell me your full name. Colton Henry Reeves, I said automatically. Henry, he repeated, his voice cracking. Your mother named you after me, even when she thought I was gone. Mom's eyes filled. I wanted him to have something of his father, she whispered. Even if it was only a name. Henry gave a quiet, breathless laugh that turned into a sob. But Colton isn't a random name either, is it, Judy? She shook her head, smiling through her tears. You were Henry Colton Dawson. I reversed it. Gave him your middle name as his first, your first name as his middle. Henry turned to me then, eyes glistening with the weight of 30 lost years. Your mother named you after me, son. Those 7 words hit me like a blow to the chest. My legs gave out, and the pizza box I'd been holding slipped from my hands, scattering across the floor. No one moved to clean it up. We just stayed there, 3 people, bound by love, loss, and fate, finally seeing what had been missing all along. Henry Voss passed away 2 weeks later, but those 2 weeks changed everything. Mom took emergency leave from the hospital, and we moved into the blue house on Maple Street. Every morning I made coffee while she cooked breakfast, and we filled the long empty rooms with laughter and conversation, trying to make up for the 30 years we'd lost. Henry told us about the decades in the dark, how he'd wake up certain something vital was missing, but never knowing what. It felt like living with a hole in my chest, he said one morning. I could feel love, but never remember who it belonged to. His parents had passed 10 years earlier, leaving him enough to live comfortably, but no truth. They told me I'd been engaged once, he said, that she moved on after the accident. They said it was better that way. He looked at Mom, and I believed them. Mom showed him the old photo albums she'd hidden in our attic, yellowed prints of concerts, beaches, laughter, the beginnings of a life stolen by one moment of rain. His hands trembled as he turned each page, memories flickering back behind his eyes. This cafe, he murmured, pointing at one photo. You were wearing a blue sweater. 3 anatomy textbooks open on the biggest table. You remember that? Mom smiled through tears. I remember everything. So did he, every moment until the crash, then nothing. Nothing for 30 years. He taught me violin in those final 2 weeks. I was clumsy, unsure, but he was patient. You've got the hands for it, he'd say, grinning faintly. Long fingers, just like mine. Your mother used to call them spider hands, perfect for the hard notes. At night, Mom would play piano, Henry guiding my bow from his chair. The music filled that house like sunlight after a storm, 3 people finding harmony where there had once been only silence. In his study, we found more than proof, hundreds of unsent letters to Mom written over the past year as his memories returned, newspaper clippings of my graduation, notes about the weather on our birthdays, every small connection he could piece together. He never mailed them because he didn't know how to start. But in the end, he didn't need to. He'd already come home. Inside the study, we found more than just papers and photographs. There were hundreds of pieces of proof that Henry Colton Dawson, had been quietly watching over us long before we knew who he was. Tucked neatly inside an old cigar box were photos of Mom, taken from a distance at the hospital where she worked, each one labeled in careful handwriting, Judith, 3rd floor nurses station, 2019. Judith, outside cafeteria, humming to herself again. There were receipt stubs from every single pizza I'd ever delivered to him, each one with notes scribbled on the back. Colton's taller this week. Looks like me at 22. Asked about music today, maybe he remembers something. I hired a private investigator, he admitted one day as we sat by his bedside. I just needed to know you were both okay. He told me about your scholarship, Colton, and about your mom's promotion to head nurse. You had a good life. I almost stayed away, then figured you didn't need a ghost like me complicating things. What changed your mind? I asked. He smiled faintly. The pizza, he said. The universe doesn't hand you chances like that unless it expects you to take them. My son delivering food to my door every week? That's not coincidence, son. That's forgiveness. 3 days before he died, he called me into his room while Mom was making lunch. His breathing was thin, but his eyes were bright. The $47, he said. I need you to know it wasn't random. $47 a week was all I could afford after medical bills and keeping the house. I wanted to give you everything, but that was all I had. It was enough, I told him. It brought us back to you. He smiled then, peaceful, in a way I'd never seen before. Your mother still wears her engagement ring, he whispered. Did you know that? I hadn't. But that night, when she thought I wasn't looking, I saw a simple diamond solitaire hanging from a chain under her scrubs, glowing faintly in the lamplight. The night before he passed, Henry asked Mom to marry him again, right there in his living room, with me as witness and his violin playing softly on the stereo. They exchanged vows. Her voice trembled on his name, and he kissed her hand with the gentleness of a man who knew he was finally home. She became Judith Dawson that night, 30 years late, but finally complete. His funeral was small but perfect. Mom played Claire de Lune on the church piano, the same song that had first brought them together. I tried a few halting notes on his violin, squeaky and uneven, but nobody cared. The music wasn't perfect, but the moment was. The obituary read, Henry Colton Dawson, beloved husband to Judith, devoted father to Colton, recently reunited with his family after a long absence. I still deliver pizzas on Thursday nights. The Blue House on Maple Street belongs to a young couple now, with twin daughters who always order Hawaiian with extra pineapple. Sometimes when I pull into that driveway, I swear I still see it, the porch light glowing, the silhouette of an old man waiting behind the door, $47 folded neatly in his hand. Mom keeps Henry's piano in our living room now. I've gotten better at the violin, good enough that we can play together some evenings. Every April 7th, we perform the wedding songs they never got to dance to, filling our small house with the music that waited 30 years to be heard. People might say this story's about tragedy, about lost time and wasted chances, but they'd be wrong. It's about how love doesn't die, even when memory does. It's about how the universe sometimes gives you exactly what you need, disguised as a Thursday night pizza delivery. And it's about how 7 words can rebuild a family that fate once tore apart. Your mother named you after me, son. 7 words that told me I was loved before I was born, that I carried my father with me in every breath, every signature, every time someone called my name. 7 words that proved love can wait 30 years and still find its way home. The $47 tip stopped, of course, but what they bought us was priceless. 2 weeks of being the family we were always meant to be, a goodbye we never thought we'd get, and the quiet certainty that some things are worth waiting a lifetime for. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to be reminded it's never too late for love to come home. Leave a comment below about your own story of second chances. And don't forget to subscribe for more true stories that prove life's greatest miracles often begin with the smallest gestures.